everybody, and welcome to another hobby cheating video. And today we're going to talk about Rust. We're going to go all in on this. So this is a steam tank that I have converted up. This was my old metal steam tank from way back in the day. As you can see, it's the older edition as the base of it, but we've modified it. We've got a new cannon, we got a new gun on there. We've put some extra accoutrement on it. So we're going to have some fun with this. And what we're going to do here is we're going to use a lot of different techniques to rust this thing out completely. I want this thing to look like, because it is the old model of the steam tank, I thought it would be fun to make this thing actually look like it had survived that long time and it's seen many fights, and it's going to go. So I don't have the back wheels on right now to keep things easy from painting. They're over here. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to go through two primary rusting techniques. We're going to talk about the chipping method, and we're going to talk about the salt method. And we're going to do both in this single project. What have I done here? So we did some zenithal undershading because I wanted to create some hot spots in it. Most of these are going to get covered up, but it'll still show through a little to create some minor tonal variation over our layers. But it was actually just as much for me to mark out where I want the hot spots to be in the final project. So for example, light, dark, light, dark, light, right? So that kind of thing. As well, you'll notice, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to capture it, but let me see if I can turn it. You can actually notice, if it kind of captures there's a little bit of a sheen. Because this is a metal model and they're so prone to chipping, after I primed it, I let it dry completely, 24 hours, and then I sealed the whole thing with gloss varnish through my airbrush. The reason I don't care about that is because I'm going to cover all this way up. So I used gloss because gloss is thicker, has a nice layer to it. So colors we're going to use. We're going to use the entire Vallejo Rust series on the base of this. So that is orange rust, that is light rust, that is rust, and that is dark brown, which isn't really a rust color, but it'll work here very well. And we're going to start with just rust, okay? And I'll show you how we're going to walk through this. So the idea here is, since this is going to be using both chipping and salt, is we're going to paint a big layer underneath of the colors that are going to show through once we chip and salt this thing. So we're actually going to undercoat this completely with these darker colors. Okay. So let's start there. As usual, we're going to go ahead and put this. We're going to do this through the airbrush. You could do this as well, by the way, through just with normal brush. It's just obviously much quicker and you get an more even coat. We're going to actually screw up our even coat later purposefully, so that'll be fun. You'll see when we get to there. So as I said, we're starting out with Vallejo Model Air Rust, and let's go from there. So it's pretty straightforward. We put it in, we mix it up. We don't need a lot. We want to keep this thin. It's already a fairly thin color. What we're going to do is we're just literally going to hit this whole thing, everything that I'm going to rust out, which is going to be most of this. All these metal parts are going to get hit with this. Not all of it will be, will end up being this sort of steel and rusted enamel effect. But everything that we're going to do that with, like I'm trying to avoid the barrel, I think I'm actually going to, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I'm actually going to leave this off back here. I'll probably go back in with I'll actually make this part back here a rusted steel. Sometimes you make decisions as you go. So we'll focus mainly on the front of the tank here. Again, you can still see how my light and dark is coming through there some, and that's what I want. I'm not looking to cover this completely at this stage. We're going to take plenty more bites at this apple, don't worry. Okay. So we've got the housing for this thing mostly covered. with our light rust. Or sorry, with our regular rust. And you can see now what we get is just this nice variance of brown tones. So, now we get rid of the rest of our rust color over here. I'm going to clean out my airbrush quickly. And we're going to go to the dark brown, because I want to rebuild some shadows and some variation in here. One of the interesting things about rust is that, you know, it happens organically. That is to say, there's no direct pattern to it. It's just sort of whatever happens to chip and rust first. So once again, I'm going to grab, this time we're going to Model Air Dark Brown, which is a fantastic color. Use it quite a bit. Make sure we got a good flow. And here what we're going to do is I want to focus first on recreating some of those shadows that I lost. Just because when this eventually chips away, I want there to be a little bit of natural shading here. Now what I'm going to do is just come in and start randomly hitting other places. I'm not looking to be in any way organized about this. I'm doing it at different sort of, it's a completely random pattern. I am not trying to be particular about this. I'm doing it at different distances from it, so I get different intensities of the brown. Right, like if I go way in there, you can see I get that nice dark spot. That's okay. That's what we want. Okay, so the point is we kind of just work it around there. And we make those splotches. You can see how we get this splotchy effect. That's what we're aiming at. All right. Get rid of that. Okay, next up, we're going to go up to the light rust, which is a very light and ruddy color. Has some strong red and orange tones in it. And the advantage there, you know, rust has a very natural orangeness to it. As it gets older and deeper and drier, it can sort of turn either completely rusted, or sorry, completely orange on the top, or it gets a really, 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 really dark color, right? Okay. So now we're just using a couple drops of Model Air Light Rust. Again, we mix that up. Make sure we got a good flow going on. There we go. So now, in a similar way, I'm just going to very randomly spray this around. Again, I'm not trying to be natural about this. A little bit, every so often, I'll focus on a spot where I want some to be a little more, perhaps, pronounced. But it's not in any way, shape, or form meant to be uniform. We don't want that. Uniformity is the enemy. Okay. Because when we chip all this away, at the very end, we're going to want to reveal a nice random pattern underneath. So there you go. Now you can see we're really getting some great variation in there. I want to put just a little bit up there. You want to mix some lighter parts in with your darker parts. Because again, rust isn't going to care about shadows. And if we do it lightly, it'll still maintain a slightly darker tone. Okay, let's get rid of that. Flying through these quick. All right, final color is we grab the orange rust itself, which is a very light color. Okay, and we're going to do just a little bit of other quick hits with the orange rust. Okay, so let's do that. Now, this is a little bit brighter than rust would ever actually be. Like, that is to say, rust certainly turns orange. What do I mean? Than an underlayer would ever be to this level. But that's because we're going to use a little filter later to kind of balance this out. And also, this goes on really thin. So again, same thing. We just kind of spray it around. We're not necessarily just reinforcing the earlier areas, though we are somewhat doing that. As I said, this paint is extremely runny, so you got to be careful. Like you can see twice, I kind of oversprayed it there. We've got to go in with little quick touches. Let it just build up naturally. A couple layers. And that'll give us a better result than if I try to go too heavy, which I was being impatient because I'm recording and I don't want that. So now you can see we've built up some really nice orange tones here. We'll do a couple just up there, kind of spread that out a little bit. Okay. Now this is probably, as I said, a little brighter. Oops, stay on there. A little brighter than we might otherwise want. And that's okay, because now what we're going to do is our final step to bring this all together. I want to build up my orange nice and bright in a couple places, because what we're going to do now is we're going to filter the colors. And this is an important step when you need to tie a bunch of things together, and really you already know how to do this because you've probably done it before. I've talked about it in previous hobby cheating videos. When you need to tie a bunch of colors together, one way you can do that is through an ink or a wash or a shade or something like that. In this case, okay, we're going to use an ink color. Specifically, I'm going to use my Vallejo Game Ink Sepia. Now, if you don't have this exact ink, that's okay. You could probably use like an Agrax or a sepia tone from GW, or the AK Interactive makes a bunch of different colors for this. Or I'm trying to think of who else does this stuff. There's a lot of options out there. Any kind of ink or wash in the brown or brown-red tone is probably going to serve you well. The idea here is to be very gentle with this. Okay? Because we don't want to undo all our good work, but we do want to tie all this together. So, letting that all dry, which it should have while I was sitting here talking. Okay? What I'm going to do now is just come in and very lightly hit everything with the sepia. And what that's going to do, because it's extremely transparent, okay, is just kind of give everything the same tint. And that's what we're aiming at with a filter. We're not looking to change the color completely. We're just looking to bring everything together. So we want a nice, smooth, even set of transitions. So I'm doing this in very, very thin layers. Oops, sorry, got out of camera there. I'm doing this in very, very thin layers. Okay? Because I don't want to overdo it. And you can see now how all that is tied together. It looks a little more brown in reality. The camera's really blowing out that orange, but it's going to give us a nice unified color. So what I'm going to do here is let all this dry completely. When we pick up, we're going to be back at the desk because we're almost ready to apply some chipping medium. But first, we need to make sure we get some texture on here. If we're going to really make this rusted, we need to pre-build some texture. Okay? And I'll show you how we're going to do that when we get back to the desk. So we'll be back in just a second. All right, and we're back. So we're back here at the painting desk, and you can see everything is dried. We've got some nice variation, but of course everything is much too smooth at the moment. Rust is naturally very splotchy. We've got some good under variation. Now we're going to need to take it to the next level. So for that, we've got a little bit of sponge, and we're going to get into some stippling here. So what have I got? I've got some pigment on my palette for a little bit of texture, and then I've got 3 colors over here as well. So I have Game Effects Dry Rust, which has some actual texture to it. It's a little bit lighter Typhus Corrosion, because I don't want quite that much texture. I've got some just Model Color Flat Brown, which has a nice ruddiness to it. And then I have our old friend Scale Color Kalahari Orange. Always a good one. So what we're going to do here is we're going to figure out how we can hold this thing, because it weighs like 8 million pounds. Now we're going to start by grabbing some of the darkest color here, and I'm actually going to just hit a little bit of the black powder, a little bit of the black pigment, just to get some more chunk in there. Now, I'm going to keep myself with a little cloth here, where I can wipe it, and what I'm going to do is just start stippling around, okay? Just like that. And I'm not focusing anywhere in particular. We already kind of covered our lights and our highlights, so at this point we're just trying to mix it up. Just keep it nice and random. Just wherever your heart desires. So the point is, we get in there, stipple, stipple, stipple. Just kind of throw it around everywhere. And what this is going to do is this is going to break up this pattern, number one. And number two, it's going to add a lot of good texture to it, because we have a little bit of the pigment, which is obviously heavier, right? And that's what we want. We don't need to do this all at once. You're not looking to get maximum application on the first go through. You can just keep poking at the model and poking at it and poking at it. Build it up slowly, and you'll have a much better effect over time. Okay? So you can create little hot spots of this where it's, you know, where it's perhaps more strong, and that's perfectly fine. Because of course rust would be, there would be some areas where it gathers in a deeper sense, because like that area is the oldest rust that paint would have given away first or something. The nice part about using the pigment with this is we don't need to seal the pigment or anything, because we have it here with, just mixed in with the paint, so it's going to naturally already be sealed in. And that's one of the things you can do with your pigments is, you know, you can just match them in with your paint to kind of enhance the amount of pigment and further saturate the colors. And get the barrel and all that. Okay, so now you can see we've got something like that. Okay. All right. So now, wipe that off. Now I'm going to take my lighter color brown. I'm going to mix it in with a little bit of this ruddy pigment here. Like kind of this orangish pigment. Test that out. Let's get a little more pigment in there. We just kind of test and make sure that it looks like the color we want it to. And then we dab, dab, dab. Dab, 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 dab. And we want to clear over some of the areas we touched before. We want to touch some new areas. We want this to be all nice and mixed in. And we just dab, dab, dab. It's just that easy. Okay. And what we're doing here is, you can see we still get, you know, some of the undershading of the variance of the rust. We get these large areas, but then we also get these nice new mixtures where these little specks kind of go over top of each other a little, which is great. That's what we want. Lots of different interesting tonal variation. Now obviously we're going to cover a lot of this up later, but that's okay. It's still going to be beneficial, because when this little part shows through, it's going to give you a very realistic rust effect, which is what we ultimately want. Okay. So we can see now we're getting some really good natural variation there. We need a little bit more right there. I can see that area looks kind of flat, not very exciting. We don't want that. Okay. now we're getting something that looks nice and rusty and chunky. It's got some great texture to it. That's what we're aiming at. Okay. All right, final. Now we're going to take the orange. I'm going to mix it with a little bit of this light brown pigment here, because what I want to do is I want to kind of desaturate that orange just a little. And then we're going to come in with that. And we're going to be a little bit light touch with it, because we don't want a lot of this. It can be really too heavy too fast. You can see how strong that is. But nonetheless, it just adds, we just mix it in. Again, we're not trying to build any particular area up. We're just creating a lot of different and individual hotspots of this. Subtle is better. More stabs is better. This takes time, but in the end, the effect you get is very much worth it. And it doesn't take that much time, to be fair. What am I doing this now? 7 minutes to do this whole thing? It doesn't seem that crazy. I think you've got 7 minutes. You notice how sometimes I'm using more paint, sometimes I'm relying more on the pigment. Either way, that's all fine. If I get a little too much pigment like that right there, I just wipe it off. No big deal. And then if you want, you can go back one more last time to your very dark brown. Just make sure you've got some of that mixed in there. If you overcoat and anything, if you feel like you got too much of one, you can always go back and do the others. And that's perfectly fine. No issue there at all. Alright, so now what we've got is something that looks like that. Now that is looking nice and chunky. Look at how rusty and spotty that looks. Oh, that's good stuff. There we go. All right. So next time we're going to be back at the airbrush booth. I've got to let all this dry. We're going to seal this all in again. Okay. So what I want to do here is I'm going to go ahead and varnish this whole thing over again once it's all done. I want to set all the pigment. I want to make sure all this paint is locked up because I don't want to chip any of this off later. So we're going to go ahead and varnish the whole thing. And then after that, we're going to spray the whole thing with chipping medium. So when you pick up with me next, I'm going to have it all sealed and varnished and dried, and we're just going to move to the chipping medium. And you'll see how I apply that, and then we'll move on to the later stages of salt and then paint. All right, and we're back. So we have the tank all rusted up. You'll notice it's become very shiny. That is because, first of all, I did go ahead and varnish it. I gave it a nice solid coat of matte varnish after the rust was on. You can see how that all dried. I think that looks fantastic. Just nice and random and spotted, very organic rust. If you're ever doing something completely rusted out, like, you know, you could kind of stop here, or there's other things you could do. But anyways, so now we've got to take it the rest of the way. And we're going to use, like I said, both the salt and the chipping method. So the reason this is actually so very shiny is because it is coated in a nice heavy coat of chipping medium. And so chipping medium, which is water-based in this is Vallejo. There's several different companies that make it. People also use hairspray. It doesn't really matter. There's lots of different ways to go about it and lots of different products to do it. What it does is it forms a layer here that's going to get activated by water so I can chip away the paint I put over top of this. Okay? The problem with chipping is that it tends to be, you tend to pull off chunks when you go through it. Like if I were to chip this part here, what'll happen is I'll tend to get a solid, random looking chunk. I don't get any really small bits. So that's where the salt method comes in. So what is the salt method? Well, For the salt method, it's exactly what it sounds like. It uses salt. In this case, I'm using some, I don't know, briny sea salt. I found it upstairs. And so what we're going to do here is we are going to put some water on the model. Now we're double gloving it for this because this is a very messy process. So what we need here is some water and some salt. And so what you do is you take it, and we're just going to put some water around on the model. Then we take our salt. We kind of push it in, shake off the excess, and rinse and repeat. You don't want too much water. You just kind of want to spread it around. You need a good chunky salt for this, really, but you want something that has lots of different sized flakes in it, because that's what's going to give you the best result. What we're trying to do here with the salt method, okay, is simulate sort of natural spots that are gonna form. And so what this is going to do is protect the paint. I got to be very careful with how I hold this thing right now. Protect the paint from going on all the way. Sorry about the silence there. It's a little tricky to talk and do all of this at the same time. That is to say, when I spray over this paint in a few minutes, what's going to happen is the paint isn't going to go where there is salt, right? Should be fairly obvious. So what's going to happen is here, where this salt is, I'm not going to actually get any paint coverage. And that's what I want. Okay. So, let me explain now what we're going to do. So we let this dry, all right? So I'm going to pause this in a second and come back. But all I'm going to do off camera is I'm going to take my actual color, and I'm going to then spray over this whole thing. So you saw I did that. Just put a little water on there, put the salt on. We let it dry. If you want, you can give another light coat of chipping medium over top, just to make sure that it really, because the water might activate some of that chipping medium and thin it out. I put a fairly heavy coat on, so it's not always necessary. But basically, I'm going to let this dry completely, and then I'm just going to go ahead and spray the whole thing, okay, in whatever color I want. In this case, this is going to be like a faded blue tank to sort of counterbalance the orangey rust underneath. I think that'll have a nice look to it. So once that's all dry, we do that, spray that on. And then you're gonna join me back over at the regular desk, and we're going to chip it, and we're going to scrape the salt off, and you'll see how we get the natural rust effect from underneath. So we'll be back in just a few moments. All right, and we're back. You can see we're back over at the table now, and we've got the blue applied over the rust. You can see we recreated some of our hot spots here. I also went in and did some line work on, just some of the plates, and popped out some of the bolts. Even though I'm going to chip some of that off, I like to do some of it beforehand. That way I just kind of have everything marked out. It's just sort of easier. One of the tricks with the salt technique combined with this chipping is that it can get a little tough. But so anyways, here we go. So now we're going to get the salt off. And the reality is some of it would just come right off. Like you can see there, that I can just pull some of it right off. But we're going to need to be a little more aggressive than that. And so we go to the ultimate tool. Old toothbrush. So I'm going to wet that old toothbrush just with my gross paint water here. I'm going to actually take my crappy wipe towel here. We're going to put it on there. Okay. And so now you can see what happens there. Once that water is applied, what you get is that rust effect. Like right away, you can see how it just pulls that right off. Okay? And you get this beautiful, beautiful chipping effect. Just shows that rust underneath, and look how organic that looks. Okay? You notice I also went in and put some white on there in some places just because now you don't want to do it all with the brush because this will act like a dry brush and it will pull the high points off. We're going to do more than just that. Okay. But by using that brush, we just want to hit all the spots. Oops. Want to hit all the spots. You know, don't forget to get things like underneath. Things would still rust. Make sure you get all your salt off. Okay. So if you've still got salt on there at this stage, which you still may, there could still be a little bit around. We go back to our old friend, the little punji stick here, and we can go in and just pop that salt off. Just pop it off manually. Now, this process can take a little while because you want to be careful about it. You don't want to suddenly rip off massive chunks of the paint, and when it's wet like this, it will come off. That is my word of warning to you. Okay? That chipping medium isn't a joke. It will take the paint off. Like you saw when I put that toothbrush against this, what we ended up with. Which I think looks fantastic. Like, I'm very happy with that result. But we don't want to go in here with the pick and create too many weird streaks or stuff like that. Like a little bit of running chips. If you want to get some more in places where you can't get your toothbrush in, so for example up here, let's say we want to create a little chip right here. We can go in with the pick. We can just kind of scratch at it. And you'll notice, boom, comes right off, right? And now we've got another nice spot there of dark paint. We can do the same up here. If you need to get a little more water on in a particular place, you can always just grab an old crappy brush, get some water up in there. Oops. And get that off. So, the rest of this is all mostly just cleanup and probably not that exciting. But you can see what we've got there now is an extremely nice, rusted, random effect. That looks beat up, and it looks natural into how that rusted away. You can take this as far as you want to go. It's really just that easy. The salt will scrape off. I can take off more paint with a smaller dry brush, with my finger, you know, however I want to go, with a pin to grab individual little areas. There's lots of options here. Once everything's dry, you've got the amount of paint off that you want. Give it a quick varnish with like some Testors dull coat or something like that to seal it in. That way when you're working or handling the model or doing anything else, you don't keep taking the paint off. It won't hurt anything that's not painted yet to have a quick Testors dull coat on top of it. You can paint right over that, but it'll protect this layer and make sure that you don't chip anything else off. I mean, once it's dry, it's not going to come off near as easily, but why take the chance? So, there you go. There's our nice rusty tank. You can see how great that came out. There's a lot of steps to it, but I think it's worth it for the effect. We'll take a look at the other side. There you go. That one's not quite as heavy. I'll probably go in some more on that one. So I'm going to keep playing around with this, get all the little pieces of salt off, make sure it's all rusted out how I want, and we'll be good to go. I'll throw a picture here at the end as usual. As always, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this technique for rusting out vehicles. I hope you can use it to make some of your own fun, weathered, aged, torn up vehicles for your own games. If there's any techniques you want to see, you can always pop them in the comments down below. Subscribe for future hobby cheating. Give it a like or share it with someone. We always do really appreciate that. And we'll see you next time.